Greetings traders, this is Houston Trong from thetradingedge.org, and here is your weekly market outlook for November the 11th to the 15th, 2019. And so another week passes and another set of record highs this week for SPY, Qs, and the Dow. So the bulls are still firmly in control, all dips still to be bought in, and this week it was no different. So this coming week, we do have a bit of a lighter week in terms of news because on the Monday we do have Remembrance Day here in Canada, Veterans Day in the States. The markets are still open, however the bond markets are closed and there will be no economic news on Monday. So a lot of those things will get shifted throughout the week, but it's still not going to be a heavy news flow week in terms of the economic calendar. Things to watch out for are the jobless claims number on the Thursday, and we have the retail sales number on the Friday. Now on Monday, one of the big items, not that it should move markets much, but Alibaba does have its Singles Day, so that's going to be a very large retail event. In fact, the largest retail event around the world, where I think I heard that that Alibaba sells more on its platform than Amazon Prime Day and Black Friday combined. So expect upwards of $30 billion in sales on that single day, which is an astounding number. Econ calendar, so that's all it is for the econ calendar in terms of the earnings. A bit of a slower earnings week. Notable names will be, there's going to be a lot of marijuana names, so a lot of MJ names reporting this week. Names like Kron and Tilray reporting on Tuesday, and ACBCGC reporting on Thursday, and we have Nvidia also on Thursday. So certainly something to look out for. The marijuana names had a really big day on Monday. Let's see if it's one of those situations where it's buy the rumor, sell the news, because even with that bump that we had on Friday, the marijuana names have been beaten up pretty badly this year. So let's get into the charts now, talk about the week that was, and let's look at what we can expect from the coming week. So let's begin with VIX. And what can we say, as we've said for the past several months now, but they continue to sell the VIX, right? So VIX at all-time lows this year, or yearly lows, let's put it that way. And just a matter of time, if things keep going this way, that they will reverse split this VIX product so that it doesn't go to zero. So on the high level, on the monthly chart, there you go. Move this out of the way. Red month here in the VIX. We do have a gap still here remaining. That here, a close of 1975, did they get hit? Yeah, so did not get taken out yet. We do have that gap unfilled at 1975, so if the buyers are able to pick it up and we have some sort of news flow come out, expect that level to get quickly retested, 1975 on the VIX. Weekly was a very unvolatile week, so pretty much left with a doji for the week. The sellers came in near the end of the week and pushed it to close near the lows, but still remained slightly green. So actually it looks like a green candle, but we still did lose minus 1.17%. But you can see it's a really small candle there, kind of a doji week, even though it's green. So weekly down. On the 2-day chart, this is what we were saying going into this week. If you recall from last week's video, I was saying we had a momentum condition to the downside, and we wanted to wait and see how this played out. So as I mentioned out here, it was an outside bar and down. We had consecutive down bars where we did not have a high taken out. Well, this week we finally did get a high pierced that happened here on this 2-day chart. And basically the buyers were in very short-term control for maybe 2 sessions, maybe 3 sessions at most, before they basically tapped a bit of resistance. I'll show you that in a few moments here, and they started the selling once again. So let's show you what that looks like on a lower time frame chart. On the daily chart, what we had here was this. So on the Monday, right away, this is what happens. Okay, so this is the pattern that I've talked about many times, where when it gaps down, this is actually not always a bear situation, because if the buyers can immediately buy it back, especially at the beginning of the week, that's going to turn the week green, right? So this is why we had on that weekly chart this little green candle. Even though it's negative for the week, it's still a slightly green candle. So the reason being is because you open up right there. Okay, see that purple line? I'll zoom in a little further. That purple line indicates the open. See how price remains above the open? If you open here and they immediately buy it back, then that turns the week green. So from a weekly perspective, if you're a buyer on the weekly charts, then that's something that's going to give you a little bit more of wind to your sails. It's really hard to buy in terms of investor psychology, trading psychology, to buy when things are red, right? Because then you have to assume that there's going to be some level of support down here, and as we know with the VIX, there is no support, right? Because these are basically all-time lows, because this is meant to go to zero. So you're not going to find any support on this chart. So basically, people are trading off price, and so and sentiment, price and sentiment. So here they buy it back right away, and this creates the green week. So as soon as it gets through here, does the gap fill and fills the gap, that means the buyers are definitely in control. And so you can expect to have a multi-day rally, 1, 2, 3 days up. Okay, so there's your typical 3-day thrust. And then what's it hit? It hits the, here, this blue line, that's your 8-period moving average. Now, I don't use moving averages for setups, but certainly they're useful to watch, because we do know that many other traders use moving averages. I'm not a big fan of moving averages, but the one thing I will give props to moving averages for is that at least they're objective, in the sense that you don't have to guess where moving average is, right? Like this, it hits the 8-period moving average. If it's going to work, it should bounce off of it. I'm not a big fan of more subjective chart patterns like bullish flags and double tops, triple bottoms, things like that, because they're very hard to draw, and there is no consensus sometimes about what the actual pattern is. Here, at least you can say, whether it's effective or not, that you cannot argue that there's actually a moving average going down. That's trending down and sloping down, and it bounces off of that. Now, whether that's effective or not, that's another discussion. So, anyways, we break up, hits that 8-period, and there's your orange line. That's your monthly open. Okay, so that's where the monthly open is, and it hits there, comes back down, and once it breaks back below this, it turns the month back red again. Okay, so it turns into basically full time frame alignment back to the downside, because the quarterly open is way up here. That's not on this chart, but I'll show it to you on another chart here. Let's go over here. See that blue line here? That's your quarterly open. There's your monthly open, because this is the month of November, and there's your weekly open. So as soon as you break below that orange line, you're below the quarterly open, you're below the monthly open, and then you're just holding above the weekly open. So you get a bit of ping pong, right? This is what you can expect when you're trading between these time frames. So you're not going to get a big break one way or the other, especially with only 1 day left. That's what we saw on Friday. So basically, created an outside day, started up here, and came all the way back through the range again. Okay, so on the 4-hour chart, it really reveals everything. And as I do with all these videos, I usually begin. Actually, I'm going to go to another chart here. I usually begin a little more detailed at the beginning, giving you the more detailed picture on the VIX and the SPY, and then once you understand that, pretty much all the indices look the same because of the correlations. Okay, so on the 4-hour chart, it looked like this, right? So this is, again, here's your weekly tutorial on price action, but essentially this is what happens, right? So here's your outside bar. Okay, that shows the buyers are in control. This is your 4-hour chart, so basically you get 2 bars a day. This is why I like the 4-hour chart, because you get basically only 2 bars a day, a little more granular, but not so granular you get lost in the forest through the trees. So you get lost in the trees from the forest. So outside, inside, one of our favorite patterns, resolves upwards, right? We get that 3-day run, 1, 2, 3. Here, inside bar, back to the downside again, reversal. Okay, so once this low gets taken out, so on Wednesday here, the buyers of the VIX are, yay, we're back in control, we're back above that monthly open. This is a problem right there, because now that means basically the buyers ran out of juice, and they're met with consolidation here now on the second half of Wednesday, and it basically closes full red, even though it's an inside bar, to close that second half of Wednesday. As soon as the sellers break up below here and it gaps down, this is what you don't want to see if you're a buyer of the VIX, because now you're trapped. Comes down here, they buy it back a bit, creates the outside bar, taps, gaps fills here. This is the gap fill. It was 1922. Here it says 1921. My other charts was 1922. Doesn't matter. It's close enough. It came really close to gap filling here on the second half of Thursday. Came up to 1919. Remember, 21 here is the gap fill. 21 it says there. Came very, very close. They couldn't do it on Friday. They opened it lower, and then within the first, I think, hour or two of Friday, there was one move. It took less than 5 minutes where they did a massive push up, and the gap filled it. I'll just quickly show that chart because it's quite interesting how fast it happened. Right there. So this is your Friday. Okay, they quickly gap filled. It went up to 1928. This is I'm gonna break down even more here. 15-minute chart. So it happened right here. So you can see it right there. See here on Thursday, hit 1919 right there. So on the Friday, they gap it down. They quickly buy it back. Really, this was a bit of some again tariff talks about. There was a bit of disagreement about whether or not they were actually going to remove some tariffs. So the markets or some people got worried. Overreaction. Powell did just enough to take out the gap. All right. So there's the gap right here, 1921. This is why you want to be watching gaps. People actually bought that, right? There are people up here who try to buy the top of this candle, and it worked for them for like 7 cents, and it came right back through. Once it comes back through this range, it's come back out the other side, outside and up. That low there gets taken out. It's come all the way back through. You can see that was basically the high of the day. So even go to a 5-minute chart, it's even more clear. Right there, right? Outside and up, right? And then once that guy gets taken out, right back through the range again. Outside bar up. Okay, so that happened right at 10 o'clock right there. When it hits the 1924 area, 1928 area here. Okay, so outside and up, inside bar, back down. So very nice gap fill there. It's hard to catch that because you kind of have to be ready for it. You have to be expecting this level. But once you know the level's been taken out, then you can be expecting, okay, is it going to show weakness now and to come back through the range? And that's exactly what it did. So that's it for the VIX, and again, the rest of the indices look very, very similar to this. So let's go back to our 4-hour chart here now, and let's now move on to the SPY chart. So for the rest of the week, so this is what you want to be looking for coming into Monday, the 11th, here. Okay, so now you close the day like this, outside bar and down. Okay, so that's momentum condition. So how long does this momentum condition go? That means we just simply want to watch these highs here and see do the buyers or the sellers have control. The buyers can break above that 4-hour high here, or subsequent 4-hour high. That means momentum has been extinguished. Otherwise, if we keep going outside bar down, 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 that means momentum is to the downside or remains to the downside. Okay, so let's talk about our SPY chart now. Okay, SPY. Let's start with a longer time frame chart, 3-month chart. So right now, it's just basically going up, up, up. SPY hits some new all-time highs, as I mentioned in the beginning. So new all-time highs for SPY. This thing is just going up, up, up. Probably gonna end strong for the rest of the year. We'll see. Another month and a half left. On the monthly chart, we have a momentum condition. Okay, so we just talked about the momentum condition on the VIX on the 4-hour chart. We actually see the momentum condition on the SPY now, right there, right? So outside bar up. Now, in order for this momentum condition to get extinguished on the monthly chart, this low has to get taken out. The thing is that this low is not going to close until the end of the month, right? So unless this thing goes all the way down here, it takes out the prior low here, we can expect momentum on the SPY to the upside. Okay, so look what happened here. When outside bar up, momentum got taken out there, and we had a quick collapse here on the SPY back in, I believe it was October. No, that was way back in, yeah, was it September? Yeah, this is August. Yeah, August. They bought it back, outside bar up now. Let's see what happens as it continues to climb up this wall of worry. Okay, it's getting it at the highs. This Browning formation here now. It has to stay above there, because if it doesn't, you can expect it to fall back in. Not saying it's going to sell off necessarily, but it's definitely going to come back in and perhaps consolidate. All right, so SPY, as I mentioned already, there's that Browning formation, and that's the year that was so far, right? So it just basically climbed up this entire range here, took out these prior highs, pulled back a bit, very tight stuff here, and then coming back up again now above the Browning formation resistance line. Has to keep going now because now it's in the Bollinger Band, right? And it's starting to do the Bollinger Band walk. If it doesn't, expect it to come back, retest this trend level here, and we'll see if it holds or not, or it comes back into the range. Now on the daily chart, should we talk about the daily? Let's first talk about the 2-day. Let's go over here and talk about the 2-day chart. Okay, on the 2-day chart, very, very similar to the VIX. We talked about the outside bar momentum condition to the upside, right? So outside bar up, 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 up. We had that going into this new week, right? So outside bar and up. That's what started the month, the week, excuse me. And then it ends up with being an outside inside. So now on Monday, you definitely want to be watching what happens with this outside inside. How does it resolve? There's a Browning formation trend line right there. Does it go outside bar up and just keep going up here, or does it pull back then and retest this level? Don't forget, we still have this gap down here, right there, that can that may get filled at some point. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so that's your 2-day chart on the SPY, and on the 4 chart, very, very similar situation here, right? So really, the thing to point out here is that here going into so here's the week, right? So it gaps up in the week and immediately they start selling it. So here on Tuesday it goes outside, inside, and it resolves this way: outside, inside, and down. Breaks the downside. Look at that line right there. That's your 8-period moving average on the 4-hour chart. So they buy it back right away. So you can see like this 8-period moving average has been holding for a while now. Buyers have been stepping up and defending that level. Even if you look at the daily chart, you'll see the same thing. Okay, so here's the daily chart on the SPY. Once the moving averages, again, I'm not a big fan of moving averages in terms of timing things, because I think you can get into trades before you get the crosses. But you know, once it crossed over, right, we've been riding this 8-period moving average now for a long period of time since here. Right, we did the crossover there back in October, okay, and then we tapped there, very close to tapping it there, you know, there, and people just been defending those 8 periods. So for now, if you want to keep the game easy, just wait and see how long this 8-period moving average remains in effect, right? It could go for a long time. We don't know. With trend trading, it is basically in a trend now. It's up. You can argue it's been up all year, but this is on a daily chart. It's trend trading up on the 8-period moving average. Until that 8-period gets violated, you know, you don't want to be trying to necessarily go against the herd, because sometimes you want to be going against the herd, and other times you want to be following the herd. Because the reality is that when things are trending, things can go a lot further than you expect, because there's that herding mentality. Everyone's getting to the same trade. Now, at the end of the trend, that's, as the saying goes, the trend is your friend to the end. That's when things can break down very quickly, because everyone is leaning in the same direction. But right now, I don't think we're at that area yet. The bigger reversals come when you start breaking multiple time frames. And I've talked about that in many different videos. So I'm not going to belabor the point here today, but you know, beginning of months, those are typically great times. Beginning of quarters, those are great times for things to reverse and be major reversals. Okay, so there's your daily chart, is what I wanted to show there. Now back to the 4-hour. This is what I was saying here. Is there they defended the 8-period moving average right there on the 4-hour chart. See, this looks a little bearish, right? If you know, if you're very short term, like, yeah, this is gonna be bearish, this is gonna be the big reversal. Really, you think so? You still got the monthly open right there. In order for this thing to turn red, you got to get below this level. All right. So here, as soon as it goes there, remember on the VIX, this is the mirror opposite on the VIX, right? Because it went down, an inside bar. This is all they had. The sellers. That's all they could do was muster this red bar there like that. Okay. And as soon as the bar is bringing it up like that, we know that this is going to be an inside bar reversal. If it breaks above the high here, it traps all these guys who get short in this sequence, and they do one better than that. They gap it up on Thursday, right? So anyone here who gets short in this sequence, they're trapped, and they gapped up. You know, well, I think it was close to 0.5%, a little higher than that, and they actually squeezed them. So they didn't hold it very long on Thursday, so it did come back in. But for the first hour or so, I think actually there's even more than that. It was for basically the first couple of hours of the trading session, they actually squeezed it higher. So they really put the squeeze on these guys who got short in this sequence, and again burnt them. So I don't know how many times you need to get burnt as a bear to stop trying that. This is why trends keep going, and it frustrates people, because if you're trying to time your shorts, you're gonna get, if you're trying your shorts, you're gonna get stopped out most of the time. And then by the time it's the right time to actually short, you're so exhausted from trying to short that you don't take the short that finally works, right? That's the game. So the key is, if you're going to try to short the market, you want to wait for the most opportune time, and that is around major trend reversals, not these small ones, right? The chances of turning major time frames around, not these little ones. This is not what a major reversal looks like. Yes, you can make money to the downside. I'm not saying you cannot make money here, but if you're looking for really, really big reversals, they don't appear like that. They appear when they have the weekly and monthlies more closely aligned, and I'll show you what that looks like on the Bitcoin chart. Okay, so again, inside bar reversal, back up now, and just squeezing higher. Now, let's talk about the Qs, which, just like the SPYs, logged some all-time highs this week on the quarterly chart. Basically, an up quarter so far, right? Outside, inside, up, up, up. Right, we need to see some of these lows get taken out before you get really, really bearish. But there you go. There's your quarterly chart, a monthly chart, momentum here, just like the SPY. Here, it really traps some shorts, right? So when inside bar, down and back up, creating an outside bar. Once it broke above there, it's momentum, and bam, it's momentum for the past month or so. Okay, back to the upside. All-time highs logged in this past week. On the weekly chart, there you go, broke above that broadening formation. So now we need to be watching out. There's a fall back into the broadening formation here, or to just keep doing the Bollinger Band walk, right? It's you know, as classic technical analysis guys would say, it looks oversold, or sorry, excuse me, overbought. But that term is sometimes useless because things can remain overbought for a long period of time, and just because your RSIs or your MACDs or your stock RSIs or whatever stochastics are logging over bots, it can remain that way for a long time and really squeeze people who are trying to get short. So this is the point here. It's like the price will tell you if once it breaks below this low, you know, that's going to be telling you that the Bollinger Band has failed, the Bollinger Band walk has failed, and you're going to fall back into the range again. Okay, so on the Qs, let's just talk about the 2-day average, 2-day moving average. Let's look at our daily chart really quickly. Just like the SPYs, the 8 period is still holding, right? So you want to be looking at that just as a shorter term. I guess you know, daily, not too short term, but as your daily reference level. If this thing above the 8, this is probably like a 5 period moving average right now, that's kind of holding things together. If this thing above the 8, you still want to be just basically long, and it's a good time to be just you know, having a portfolio approach versus, you know, trying to get too fancy with your shorts because the bias is higher and it's long. And on the 2-day chart, just watch for this. Again, I'm not going to go through the intraday stuff because it looks all the same now. But here, how does this resolve next week? Outside inside to close the week on the 2-day chart. How does this outside inside resolve on Monday? Okay, now for Russell, same picture monthly. Again, as I mentioned in the last week's video, I'll just quickly pull it up here. Your inside year, right? Outside inside on the year, probably going to remain inside year with only a month and 3 weeks left in trading. But right now, green month, but still way below last year's highs. So unless it does something amazing, you're probably going to be remain inside year, which is fine because then that sets up something really, really fantastic, possibly for next year. Outside inside pattern, right? Imagine how that will break for the yearly chart. Okay, end of the week red though. Okay, so that means you closed lower than where you opened at the beginning of the week, although you did create higher highs, right? So this thing here was higher. Well, on the weekly chart there, I'll delete some of these lines out. Okay, this week here was higher than all the previous highs. But you can see how tight this is, right? See that? That's basically consolidation. It's going sideways, right? It's very, very tight stuff, although you're creating lower lows. So this is what confuses people, confuses most people most of the time, is that you're actually getting a broadening formation happening here because you have a lower low that's lower than that, and that high is higher than that. But people are getting killed in here as they're trying to go short, long, short, long, short, long, and you're getting higher highs and lower lows. Okay, so let that play out. On the 2-day chart, it ends the week with a inside bar. So which way does this thing break on Monday? You're below the weekly open, so however it opens up, that will be important. But you're currently trading above the monthly and quarterly open. So you know that's still the majority of time frames are saying to the upside. The 4-hour chart, just watch for this, just like we had on the SPY. Okay, outside inside, right there, right? Outside inside. Let's see how that breaks on Monday. Alrighty, so there's your outside inside, and again they're defending that 8 period moving average right now, right there. They have them right there, but very tight trading. Look how tight that is, right? In that sequence there, that means you're either it's consolidating or you're having a hard time finding buyers. So this will be important now to see how these things break. Okay, now on the Dow very strong this week. On the Dow chart, all-time highs again for the Dow, outside and up on the monthly chart. So going right in those highs, has to keep going, right? Because you're going right in the highs now. Do they have enough buyers to keep this thing going, or do things run out of momentum? Okay, so here, starting the Bollinger Band walk, we're hitting the Bollinger Band. Does it come back in, or does it keep going on the weekly chart, right? Big green week for the Dow, logged 1.35%. So a good moving week for the Dow. 2-day chart, you have as follows. Okay, momentum condition now. So going into this week, we had the outside bar last Friday, or the last 2 days of the trading week, and then it goes outside and up, and inside bar, right? So now, how does it break this inside bar on Monday? So all actionable stuff to watch for on Mondays. How do these things break, right? That will set the tone for the week, and you really want to be seeing how things transact or trade versus their weekly opens, because these things are going to open up and they're going to break this inside bar condition that we've seen now across these multiple indices. That's going to give you a real good reference point of which way the markets have to either reclaim or have to break above to get back into that uptrend, or how it might trade lower. Okay, because if it opens high and it comes back down, you can expect it to, have to do some work to come back up again. Otherwise, if it opens low then and it comes back up, then the buyers have that momentum once again. Okay, so the Dow, we have that condition there on the 2-day. On the 4-hour chart, inside bar reversal right there, possibly setting up right here. Okay, so for Monday, so we have that that inside bar on the 2-day. But here is your possible inside bar reversal to the upside that could happen on Monday. So if the buyers break above this inside bar on Monday, this puts this pivot in play, that pivot in play, and that pivot in play, right? So possible inside bar reversal back to the upside again. Or it comes down, but then you want to watch that 8 period because that thing's been holding for a while now. Okay, so on the TSX now. So TSX had a good strong week, trying to get back up to those all-time highs, getting close. So on the TSX, on the 3-month chart, it is in pretty tight trading though. It's still inside quarter. Okay, so still inside quarter right there. On the month, things get back in the green. We had a bit of a red month last month for TSX. Right now, we're up 2.4% already for the TSX for the month of November. So really good month so far for the TSX, getting really close once again, taking those all-time highs, cracking above that broadening formation, right? So it's cracking above there right now, trying to climb higher. Okay, TSX on the weekly chart, nice green chart. Okay, good strong week. Did leave an unfilled gap down here though, so something to note on your charts. Okay, so 1.71% up for the week, and then finally for the TSX, you got a momentum condition right here. So started last week, and it's still going. See, outside, inside, then it goes outside and up. Up, up, up. So it's momentum. So they really bought it back after this sequence here. It stopped out a lot of people. You can see it just based upon the wide range bars and the likelihood of people getting chopped up here, because also these moving averages, it's so tight. Anyone who trades that kind of stuff, they get killed in here. If you're a moving average trader and you try to take signals on this stuff here, you get killed in this kind of stuff. So here, this is where they stop everyone out. You have to get back in. You have to get back in here. Breaks above here. Inside bar reversal to the upside. Boom, boom, boom. Straight momentum move now. Now you want to wait and see if a low gets taken out to say that momentum has been extinguished on that 2-day chart. Okay, so TSX still on its way up. On the 4-hour chart, it kind of looked like this. So on the Monday, that's your Monday, kind of non-eventful. Tuesday, non-eventful. Outside, inside, that sets it up though for the rest of the week right there. Outside, inside, stops out anyone who gets short here, thinking that was the top on Monday. They get stopped out right there. Consolidates Tuesday afternoon, and bam, gone for the rest of the week. Okay, so now let's talk about emerging markets, because EM had a bit of a red week. So the North American indices were quite strong, but EM looking a little bit weaker now, which is it's had a really good run. So this is the first red week for a while. But just to take a bigger picture, first off, still a green month so far, up 2.5%, so nothing to complain about. You do have that unfilled gap right there though, so I want to move that line right there, unfilled gap. Okay, so let's make sure that line coincides with, no, it's not the right, yeah, it is right there, but I'm going to fix that line right there. Leave it right there on the unfilled gap. Okay, so I'm just going to change that color there really quickly. We'll note that here. All right, oh, sorry. Okay, so on the weekly chart, we do have this red week. So it opens and closes lower than the open. But we did have 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive green weeks. This week did close higher, right? Because you have that gap up that did not get filled. So we actually had 5 consecutive weeks where we have higher closes than opens. Okay, so still a strong week. Okay, so on EM, on the 2-day chart, you do have a bit of momentum condition to the downside now. So on EM on the 2-day chart here, it goes outside bar and up, but on Thursday, Friday, they were able to break that momentum condition when it broke below that pivot here. Okay, so that extinguished the momentum. On the 4-hour chart, you create that sequence. So it goes outside and up. Things look really, really rosy on Thursday, as I mentioned already. People bought Thursday, right? They squeezed them even harder, and we got short here, get really squeezed here on EM. But then the afternoon got really weak. So here, with the outside bar, then a gap down on Friday. So outside bar down, down now. So momentum condition on the 4-hour chart to the downside. You want to watch and see how that plays out. All right, TLT, man, the risk names, the risk on names are definitely in play, but the risk off names really, really got hurt. So names like, you know, the bond names and gold, the names, gold miners and gold and GLD itself, both saw some heavy selling this week, as it looks like the worst case scenario is behind us around tariff talks. So here on TLT, what do we have left with? On the quarterly chart, you have an inside quarter. Okay, so still, even though it's been a pretty negative quarter so far, you're still inside of the previous quarter's gains. All right. On the monthly chart, firmly red. So now we finally broke that momentum condition to the upside. Remember here, July outside bar up, and then inside. Once it broke below there, that momentum condition was extinguished. So now, you know, you lost that monthly momentum condition. Now on the weekly chart, it looked all good. You know, it looked all good last week when they were finally able to break the downside momentum condition. But here's what happened. Look, the momentum condition here when it went outside bar, they could not break above that monthly quarterly open. This is why you watch these levels, because they're usually significant, right? They had the outside bar last week, but they could not close above it, and it tested it and they closed below it. This week here, they opened it right there and they sell it off right away, creating an outside bar down condition. So outside bar and down now, momentum to the downside for TLT. On the 2-day chart, just watch for a possible inside bar reversal here. Excuse me, just an inside bar on the on TLT. Yeah, here was the inside bar reversal that I'm talking about. That started the week. So recall last week it was an outside bar. There's your monthly quarterly open right there, that orange line. It went inside bar up. They pierced it but could not close above it. As soon as it breaks below there is your inside bar reversal. Happens to coincide with these lines here. The blue line's your 8-period moving average. That green one's your 20. The trend, you know, just guys who trade those, you're testing those moving averages. A break below there is your inside bar reversal, and then you get that which you saw here to end the week. Okay, so 3 consecutive red bars. Now, all right, so now just wait and see how this inside bar resolves on Monday. GLD also got hit this past week. So now we see let's zoom out for a second. The quarterly chart shows us the momentum condition is still alive, although definitely consolidating more so than going up now. Outside up on the quarterly, inside bar. Okay, so outside bar and up, inside. You have to break below there to extinguish that. On the monthly chart, we get that red month. See that? So it hit that broadening formation high right there, and now it's possibly coming back through the range again, breaking below that quarterly open. So now you have a red quarter. On the weekly chart, you got the outside bar and down condition. Okay, so outside bar down here now. Now it's meant to the downside. So expect to see more downside momentum unless you get a high get taken out. Okay, and on the daily chart, this is what we see. This is what happened, right? So here, outside bar and up, just like we talked about TLT, looks kind of the same, right? Outside bar and up. Once that low gets taken out right here, the momentum gets extinguished, and that happened on Monday. See, so this is significant here because this is when I talk about bigger reversals. When you have the monthly and quarterly level, monthly and weekly levels, or maybe even the quarterly levels, all in alignment or in the same areas, then if those areas, these are potential areas of transition, because if the buyers or the sellers, depending on what condition we're talking about, cannot hold those levels, that will flip the bias on the time frames. So here, as soon as you break below this low right there, happened on Monday, it turns the weekly red and it turns the monthly red. The only thing that's green is the quarterly, which is down here, and guess what? It goes back and touches the quarterly. Not a coincidence, right? Not a coincidence. So there's your reversal, happens right there, and the next day gaps down, right? So you got short here, a break of that, you get a nice 1.62% down day here, consolidates on Wednesday, another gap down and selling all day on Thursday, and then the selling day on Friday. So very nice move here if you're a gold seller, not so much if you're a gold holder, because that was some really nice trading action there that really trapped a lot of longs. Because people saw this last week, they saw the big green candle, right? So this is deceiving, because outside bars are not just are not single context bars. You cannot use a single bar to say, okay, this is going to be bullish. And it's really short-sighted, and unfortunately lacks a bit of awareness and lacks a bit of context. So you really need to be combining many things to understand potential outcomes, and not rely on just the bars. You need to have an understanding of time as well. So as I said here on the daily chart, this is what it looks like. Okay, so this here, I'll just show you, this is a very nice sequence, so I'll just zoom in a little closer. So on the weekly chart, I drew it in, right? So on the weekly chart, you have the highs and the lows drawn in by this blue line, okay? So this is what happens on Monday. Excuse me, not Monday, but this is what happened this past week. So this past week, so there's your blue lines. So that's the prior week's highs and lows, okay? Here on Tuesday, this low here breaks the prior week's low. So now that means you go outside bar and down on the weekly chart. So in your mind, you have to understand that this is what's occurring. It goes outside week and down. Now, if you're one of these breakout guys, you may have put a stop entry, or stop market, or stop limit to get into here, right? At 139.55 or 54 to get 1 penny below or 2 pennies below. You're immediately wrong, right? Because your timing's off, because you're trying to buy breakouts or breakdowns in this case. Taps there, and immediately pops up. Okay, so you get filled here, 139.55. Let's pretend. And it goes all the way against you to a high of 140.79. So it moves $1.24 against you before it works again. So it's really, really bad timing to just buy these breaks, because you can time your entries better by going to lower time frames. So in this case here, I'll just give the example. It goes outside bar down, triggers the weekly signal, right? It means on the weekly chart, you know already, it goes outside bar and down, right? It broke that 139.55. But the actual entry is here. It goes down, pops up there. Once you break below that inside bar low, there's your trigger, because now you know if it breaks below that low, here people are getting stopped out. When it pulls back up, now you can get a way better defined risk entry by just simply taking this bar right there. Low is 140 right in here, and then it comes right back through the range, taking everyone out. Okay, so it's a way better entry than just simply trying to sell that low. Okay, so that ends up being a pretty good trade for anyone who takes that GLD or XAU trade. Let's talk about let's see here, Bitcoin now, because here's another chart I referenced earlier about the importance of time frames. So Bitcoin here now, I will pull up the Bitfinex chart. Okay, there we go. So on Bitcoin, still tight trading though, but you are at a transition area now that's important to watch. As I mentioned last week, that we can expect to have some bigger moves here, because you cannot hang out at these transition areas all quarter, otherwise things will basically dry up and people will leave. so right now it goes inside quarter and down, and they buy it back right now. So that red line signifies the low of the previous quarter. The buyers defended that area, that 7,700 area, went as low as 73.33. Okay, so now on the monthly chart, you have an inside month right now, and that's the challenge, is that you're sitting inside the prior month's range. So we're only 1 week into the trading month, but it's still inside the prior month's range right now. Question is, how do you get out of that? You get out of that by beginning to break, either staying above this quarterly level or breaking below it. Okay, so on the weekly chart, here's what's significant, is that we were able to do an outside inside break to the downside. So you still have that quarterly open right there though, right? So here's the issue. Now you have the red, now you have the month red, because there's your orange line, that's your orange monthly open, and there's your quarterly open there. So here, if you don't get out of there quickly, it's going to be turned into that ping pong game where it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Otherwise, if you can break below here, it's going after that pivot low, and that will once again trigger the quarterly chart. Remember that quarterly low there, that's right there, the red line, 77.33. If you can stay back below there, expect to come back through the range. That's the potential for Bitcoin right now, is that the bias is lower because you have a red week and a red month, but you definitely want to be watching to see how it navigates this quarterly open. Okay, so on the 2-day chart, that's what it looks like. The buyers had a bit of momentum in the beginning of the week. 2-day chart here, because it goes going into this week, it was outside and up, but as soon as this thing breaks below here, is your inside buy reversal back to the downside again. Some nice selling here in the last couple days of the week, down -6%. Now we're inside, because as a buyer, how do you pull it back up here again? Now, if the buyers want to take control of this chart, they have to basically break above this monthly open right there. Okay, so here, this bar is a two-day bar. If it closes an inside bar, you can do an inside bar reversal back to the upside again. But the challenge is that you have to break above that monthly open. It's right there. So now you have those two levels you want to be watching: that quarterly open down here and that monthly open right there. So you're kind of stuck in this area now, and you're gonna need to watch and see. But this is the transition point, right? So you're right at these levels here now, where the markets have to basically make a decision which way they're going to go. Okay, so Ethereum, even consolidating even more than Bitcoin, and really, again, the lessons I've talked about here around understanding those time frames are really, really important, because this is a real transition area and will be significant going forward. The next few months, this will be an area we'll look back on and say, man, that was an important area. This is what we're talking about here. So here, inside quarter last quarter, inside quarter so far this quarter. Okay, there's your low. It came really close to taking out that low back here in October. On the month so far, inside month. So really tight stuff here, right? So we're consolidating on the monthly charts and the quarterly charts. Expect a big move when you pop out of those levels. Back here is outside inside. We had a nice multi-month move inside so far. Let's see how we break that consolidation. Okay, on the weekly chart, that's what you want to be looking for here. Outside inside, it broke to the upside here, but it ran out of momentum. The sellers quickly hit them. Now we're trading right there. There's your monthly open and your quarterly open right there. So will not take much here. If the sellers come in, they break below the low of this bar, that's going to be inside bar reversal to the downside, and you're trading with full time frame alignment to the downside, meaning you're below the quarterly, below the monthly open, and then potentially coming after that quarterly open there, which could expose Ethereum to a lot more selling. Okay, so something to watch out for. Otherwise, if the buyers step up and they push this thing back up and close back above this high again, you're gonna have that full time frame line to the upside, and then you have the chance for this thing to go higher. But this is gonna be significant how it breaks here, because you're at this transition area right there. Okay, so it's a multi-week transition area consolidation, but this is gonna be a transitionary area here. Same thing with Ripple. This is a kind of a what could happen with Ethereum. But the reason I'm showing Ripple is this, because I'll just show the monthly chart first. Same thing, really tight stuff. Inside month right now. Okay, sorry, I'm going to bring up the BitPhoenix chart, not the Bitstamp. Inside month, so consolidation, really, really tight stuff, right? This whole year's been tight for Ethereum. Ripple. And then on the weekly chart, had gone outside inside, popped up like we saw with Ethereum, but there was enough selling to make it go to the downside, creating the outside bar, outside, inside, and down. Now there's your quarterly open right there. Does it hold, or does it again continue to do this chopping around inside of this large mother bar? So we'll continue to watch and see how that plays out. But on Ethereum, on the daily chart, we have this momentum condition here, outside bar on Thursday and down. Now, does it continue to do the momentum move to the downside, or does a high get taken out and extinguish that momentum move? Okay, so now let's just do a quick, fast look at some notable names. So I'll look at the weekly chart on a few names here for the coming week. WDC, this thing has been selling for the past couple weeks. So now, outside, and inside, which way does it resolve? To the upside or the downside? If it breaks below here, we come back through this range, because that's full time from alignment to the downside. Twillo, another weak name, not able to get out of its way. Earnings were not kind to it. It's now outside bar and down, momentum to the downside for Twillo. Mobile, another former high flyer, really getting hit there, outside. So I was actually long way back here when it was doing well. Got out on this sequence in here when things begin to break down. In this case here now, outside inside, how much more can it go down, or they break it back up here? Because right now, trading well below the Bollinger Bands. This is your Bollinger Band walk. If it pops up above this past week's high, there's a chance we go and do a gap fill, because we had a major gap here after earnings. So if it can somehow break above the week's high, I'll just draw that week's high in here. This is the previous year's high, so I want to blow that one away. But here, if we can break above that area there, that's not a gap, so I'm going to change that color very quickly. Okay, so if you can break, I'm going to delete that line. If you can break above this level here, $5, then you have a chance to come back and do this gap fill. So watch that $5 area. Okay, let's talk about play. Play on the weekly chart, outside, inside. Okay, definitely want to be watching, see how that breaks. It's pretty tight here right now, so that's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. Earnings are not out for another month, but here, playing alongside of that is this condition: outside and up, inside now. Now, how can it clear its range, and does it pop out of there? Okay, play, and let's look at another name here is backs. Oops, wrong one. Backs. Okay, outside, inside. Right now, you know, I brought this name up last week. This week I did an additional week of consolidation. This is ready to move now. So something's going to happen this coming week here. You know, it's very rare to have 2 inside weeks in a row. So I expect this thing to eventually pop out of its range, and we should get some nice move out of that. So watch and see how that clears. Okay, so let's now review just a few names that are really flying on my radar. So I'm going to share with you a couple of names that, based on a modified Sharpe ratio, that are both doing well, really well, and that are not doing so well. So let's begin with the ones that are doing not so hot. So let's talk about first. Let's pull up the daily chart so you can see. It looks like Beyond Meat, still one of the worst performers in my basket of stocks that I'm looking at, still just making new lows each and every week. Now I expect the IPO price to get tested way down here. It opened at 46. Yeah, that IPO price is probably going to be in play now, as yeah, once this thing breaks down, these things tend to test their IPO open. BCRX, another real weak name here. Okay, and this thing is setting up to go lower. So you know, this has really underperformed and possibly going lower now. The only issue with this one is just such a low, it's kind of a cheap stock. You may not want to play names like this. SunPower, so some of these solar names definitely getting hit, right? So this one's been selling for a while now. Mobile we talked about already. MOBL, possibly more downside action if the trend continues. Otherwise, we get that big pop to the upside. Revolve, retail name, man, it's looking terrible. So on after earnings, and the earnings right here, reaction to the earnings, going right into all-time lows now for Revolve Group. And a couple of more names. Twitter, we mentioned it last week. It's doing an outside bar and down condition, went to the downside. Twitter really getting beat up here. So you can see that outside bar down, down. Again, waiting for that momentum condition to get extinguished. The high there need to be watched to see this thing perhaps pop to the upside. And the last name, no surprise, is VIX. So VIX here, one of the worst performers in my basket based upon a Sharpe ratio. That means how smooth it's kind of going down, how efficient it is going down. You can see it just going down, down, down till it's all-time lows now, or yearly lows for the VIX. Let's now contrast that with some of the winners, some stocks that are doing really, really well based upon their modified Sharpe ratio. Celgene hitting all-time highs. So that thing is going. Actually, not all-time highs, but yearly highs, multi-year highs. I can't say all-time highs because you still have that high way back here in 2017. But multi-year highs, very, very efficient mover right now. Look at that weekly chart, right? Outside bar, up, 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 up. Okay, so no single lower low for several weeks now. So moving very, very smoothly is Celgene. TSM, so I talked about this one last week, continues to move. A little bit of a red week this week, but still it's been a really, really nice mover. FTNT had really good returns the past couple weeks, moving up, 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 up. Caesars Casino hitting some, I think it's also, is it not close to, but definitely some multi-year highs here, and very smooth mover now for the past several weeks. Apple, as it continues to make all-time highs, right? Dragging the rest of the market up with it. Outside bar to close the Friday. Look at that moving on Apple on the weekly chart. Momentum condition. Outside bar up. Okay, so you can see how Apple's had a great year here, year to date. Okay, all-time highs for Apple. And let's do just a couple more. Let's do Amgen. So Amgen, this one did hit all-time highs. So Amgen all-time highs. Okay, hitting those all-time highs. Really nice looking chart for Amgen. And one more to show, and AMD, another Momo name. Has had some really nice moves here since the beginning of October. And just to show you a lot on the weekly chart, right? So we basically completed that broadening formation, outside, inside, and it broke basically to the downside. Created that lower low. This low here is lower than that low. So that low here was 27.65. That low there was 27.43. So I'm just going to quickly redraw that line. And then, that high goes back to that high. And this past week, we blew through there above that broadening formation trend line. Okay, so that's a wrap for this week's weekly market outlook. As always, I hope you got something out of the video. If you have any questions, you can always leave comments or questions either on the blog site or in the YouTube comment section. If you enjoy these videos, please give us a big thumbs up and subscribe so you get the notifications when this video comes out. And as always, if you appreciate the work, then of course please share it with other friends and other traders so that that will help grow our community. Have yourself a great trading week and happy trading.